Ada sat on the cold pavement, her back against the wall of an old building. The bustling city moved around her, indifferent to her presence. She clutched a thin shawl around her shoulders, her body trembling from the early morning chill. Hunger gnawed at her stomach, but the ache was something she had grown used to. She was lost in thought when a pair of polished shoes stopped in front of her. Looking up, she saw a man in a simple suit. His face was kind, lined with age and compassion. He crouched down to meet her gaze. "What's your name?" he asked gently. Ada hesitated. It had been so long since anyone had asked her anything with kindness. "Ada," she finally whispered, her voice hoarse. The man nodded, offering a small, warm smile. "Ada, I'm Pastor Emmanuel. Can I get you something to eat?" Ada followed him to a small diner nearby. The smell of food made her stomach twist painfully, and when a plate of rice and stew was placed in front of her, she devoured it without hesitation. Pastor Emmanuel watched silently, his eyes filled with quiet understanding. When she finished, he spoke. "You've been through a lot, haven't you?" Ada's hands froze over her empty plate. She didn't reply, but the tears in her eyes betrayed her answer. Pastor Emmanuel reached across the table, placing a gentle hand over hers. "You're not alone," he said. "There's a place where you can rest, where people will help you." At first, Ada was skeptical. Too many promises in her life had turned out to be lies. But something about the pastor's steady presence made her want to believe him. He led her to a small shelter run by his church, where a group of women greeted her with warm smiles and open arms. For the first time in years, Ada felt safe. The shelter was simple but welcoming. Ada was given clean clothes, a warm bed, and a quiet space to rest. The other women didn't pry into her past but shared their own stories of pain and survival. Ada listened, feeling a flicker of hope ignite in her chest. Over the weeks that followed, Pastor Emmanuel visited often, always bringing small gifts or words of encouragement. He spoke of faith and forgiveness, of a God who saw her pain and wanted to heal her. At first, Ada resisted. How could she forgive the people who had destroyed her life? How could she believe in a God who had allowed her to suffer so much? But the pastor's patience was unwavering. He never pushed, only offered gentle reminders that healing was a journey. One evening, as he led a small Bible study at the shelter, something in his words broke through Ada's walls. "The world is filled with darkness," he said. "But even the smallest light can overcome it. No matter how deep your pain, there is hope. There is redemption." Ada felt tears streaming down her face. The weight she had carried for so long seemed to crack, just a little, letting in a sliver of light. That night, she knelt by her bed and whispered a prayer, her voice trembling with both fear and longing. "God, if you're there, help me." The days that followed were filled with ups and downs. Ada began to open up about her past, sharing her story with Pastor Emmanuel and the women at the shelter. Each word felt like a heavy stone being lifted from her heart. The shame and anger that had defined her for so long began to fade, replaced by a fragile but growing sense of peace. One afternoon, as she sat in the small courtyard of the shelter, Pastor Emmanuel joined her. "You're stronger than you know, Ada," he said. "Your story isn't over yet." Ada nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. For the first time in years, she believed him.